All right. So before we jump into the meat of the session, that is before we start, just wanted to get to know you. If you can just key in your favorite products and where you are joining from. Okay, so I'll type in first. Oh, Devrit had said Twitter and Mumbai. Even I'm from Mumbai, yeah. Guys, don't worry, I won't judge you. Any product that you like, it could be something that you recently discovered. It could be even as simple as like WhatsApp or Facebook, a social media app. Grow, nice one. Dream Level. I think Tejas, you invest heavily on making your team, especially since IPL is on. Zero, nice. A lot of investment apps. 50 rupees. Amazon, Cola. Hey, Aman. All right, so we are at 7:31. Netflix and Hotstar. We have someone who's following a lot of TV shows and movies. Nice one. Cult. We are cult. Nice one, Milan. Generally, I do this activity at the start of our PM school sessions as well. Gives us a sense of new upcoming products. Krachi Rolo. This is a new one. I have not heard of. Notion, nice and Raj. One of my favorite products to document, even track a lot of my tasks and automate. I love the Notion AI support feature.
Nail cutter.
All right, guys. I would want to sort of start with the session now. We just wanted to sort of take a pulse on everyone in the room. Welcome you all. I know it's a weekday and all of you must have had a really sort of hectic hours. Just one more hour. Don't worry. This will be a very smooth and interactive one. Two quick tips. I would want the chat to be buzzing during the session. So please just keep typing. If there is any question, please do not hesitate putting your queries on chat. We have Kushal, who's my co-founder at PM School. He'll be helping us curate the chat. And we would want to sort of answer all your questions as much as possible. Before I kick off the session, I'll just pass the baton to Kushal. Kushal, if you just want to say a few words and take it over.
Thanks for the introduction, Prince. So hi, everyone, and welcome to PM School Star session. We do this every few weeks where we invite industry experts to share their insights to help existing product managers as well as the aspiring ones to get better in the art and science of product management. We do this in a more dedicated and structured format with the PM School Live cohort. So it's an 8-week bootcamp kind of a setup where we upskill you from probably having very minimal product knowledge or product management experience to being able to take over probably products in companies as a product manager's role. So we give you the at PM School, we give the best possible form of care and attention to every student, and we try our best also to get you placed in various organizations after the cohort program ends. And we have continued support for lifetime. So yeah, if you have more details, I think Priyal would have sent an invite mail for this session itself. We'll be sending out a thank you as well. You can reply to us on that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kushal. Without further ado, I'll just jump into the session. Just a quick small introduction about me. I work at Swiggy. I lead loyalty and gamification for Swiggy. I look at Swiggy One, the subscription product. I'm pretty sure all folks living in India have either used Swiggy or Zomato, so you know what Swiggy One is. If you want to talk about loyalty or anything with respect to food delivery, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and drop me a message. Beyond Swiggy, I've worked over the last 9.5 years across different product companies from edtech, mental health, insurance, and primarily sort of now focusing on B2C product building. That's been my focus area. Although I did have 2 years of stint working on B2B SaaS platform products. Would love to sort of connect with not just existing product managers, even aspirants who are trying to get into product management, right? So please do not hesitate. If you are someone who's looking to get into product management, I would love to speak to you. Yeah. All right. This session is more from the focus on towards people who have got into product management, but does not mean that if you're already an aspirant, you cannot use it. I'll also share certain examples of how I've used ChatGPT for even job search, or let's say when I'm writing my cover letter, or even applying for a lot of companies, right? See, essentially, it's a super useful productivity tool. You don't need to come from a certain background, be like a product manager, or you can be anyone and everyone and use ChatGPT. Although the session is kind of focused towards product activities and a lot of product lifecycle asks, you can use it for your day-to-day as well. As we sort of jump into a lot of these use cases, you'll get a sense of how useful it can be for your own context. All right. So rather than directly sort of playing with the tool for the first 4 to 5 minutes, what I'll do is I'll just give you a sense of the strengths and weaknesses of what ChatGPT is, what it can do, and what it cannot do. You have to take it with a pinch of salt. Don't think of the ChatGPT as like a meta god that will answer all your questions. It will help you to a certain degree, but it cannot have a lot of context. It cannot really give you answers on a plate, right? You'll have to do your own due diligence, and you have to also do some fact checking. So you can use it to a certain degree, but it's not the answer to all your problems. So you have to be super smart on how you use it. As we sort of go through certain examples in the session, you'll get a pulse on what I'm talking about. Certain things that, as I said, ChatGPT cannot do. It cannot draft a product strategy and vision for you. Obviously, that's a very nuanced activity. You'll need to really understand the market. You need to understand the space, and that's like an ongoing activity that's been sort of the forte of a lot of product managers who figure out decision making whenever you're sort of planning your year in advance, right? You're thinking of, okay, what is it that's important for you and your product and your company? You go into a due diligence of like 2-3 months trying to speak to end users, researching on the market. It takes time, it takes context, and it's a very sort of nuanced activity that ChatGPT or rather any chatbot in the world as of today cannot help you with. You can obviously do parts and parcels of certain say steps in the process of you figuring out your roadmap. For example, documenting certain things, or let's say writing a PR release, which is essentially like a very micro step that feeds into you coming up with your product strategy, right? You cannot ask ChatGPT your vision, because that's something that you come up with basis your body of work, your understanding of who the users are and what problems are you trying to solve. Product managers also have to work multifunctionally, right? Product managers work across multiple teams. You are at the crux of technology, business, marketing. So you're speaking to multiple teams. You have to convince people. It cannot do that job for you. While having said that, it can obviously help you with your argument pointers. For example, if you have a certain context and if you feed in certain types of comms and communication within the ChatGPT input box, it can give you certain navigation points with respect to strengths and weakness that you can use to strengthen your argument. I'll give you an example in the session further, so you'll know what I'm talking about. It obviously would not see, you might want to think that ChatGPT can help you really tone your PRDs or user stories, but it won't be able to give you, let's say, that sense of, okay, what is my P0 user story? What is my P1 user story? That prioritization and your own context of what matters to you, what matters to your company, those trade-offs or decision-making, that has to come naturally to you, and your product sense has to develop, right? How do you manage your customers, right? Your customer facing task with respect to you doing a lot of focus groups, user research, and you being able to consume a lot of data that you get from end users once they have consumed your product, right? That's something that you can get help on by using ChatGPT. We have an example in the session ahead wherein we asked ChatGPT to analyze certain sort of customer feedback data points, and it'll come up with a summary of sorts. But you'll have to still assess it. Try to think of if the activity is like a 3 hour, 4 hour task, you can reduce the time it takes by using a tool like ChatGPT. Now, going towards how do you sort of leverage it? It obviously helps with documentation. I'd say everything from writing use cases to test cases, not just from a product manager standpoint, even like developers can use it to write JavaScript code. See, it's essentially a massive large language model. It's being fed with massive amounts of knowledge. So you have to be super wary of how do you use it. Having said that, I'd say everything documentation, it's super useful. It can help you enable decisions. It cannot take the decisions for you. You might say, hey, I said something about decision making in the previous slide, but here I'm saying that it can still help me with the decisions. It can feed into what you're thinking. It can be an input to your decision making, but it cannot take the decision for you. That's the difference, right? You can also use ChatGPT to use for your product comms. For example, you have a sign up page, right? And you're thinking of multiple copies for your CTA on the sign up page. And you are in that mental block of, okay, I've come up with 3 or 4 words. Now I cannot think of any more variations, right? So you can just key in, hey, I'm looking for a certain sort of copy variant for a CTA that's on a certain page, and it'll throw up like 10, 15 variations in front of you, right? So it's a good sort of source for you to come up with a lot of copies for your context, for your product, and for the different types of, let's say it could be a list of experiments that you're running. You're looking for, okay, what communication do I run for a certain context, right? Now, that's more than enough. I would not want to take more time just talking on slides. I want to sort of go directly to the tool and show you how it works. It's magic. I would want all of you to just open a browser tab on your comp, wherever you're logging in from, and go to this URL, chat.openai.com. You can sign up from your own account, use any email that you're part of, your work email or your personal email, and you will see this screen, right? While you do that, I'll open up my own ChatGPT. Just one caveat. The ChatGPT that you'll sign up for, it's a free version. So it's running on Chat 3.5. It's really good. Don't think that you are not on a paid version, so it's not as powerful. I'd been using the free version for quite some number of months. It's up till recently, I think, a few weeks back when I upgraded to the newer version. The newer ChatGPT version is on the 4th ChatGPT 4 model. Having said that, it's obviously better in terms of its reasoning and the quality of responses. I would suggest you pick up the freer version and play with it for quite some number of weeks. Understand how we are able to leverage it before you move on to the paid model, right? All right. So what I would do is just open up the ChatGPT on my window. I'll just show you certain queries that I've been sort of trying it out for. This is something that I did today. I'll obviously do like a live demo as well, so you understand. This is the screen that you see. You can just click on new chat and just key in your, think of you talking to a chatbot, right? I'm pretty sure all of us here use a lot of consumer apps wherein we go to the help section and chat with a bot. Think of ChatGPT similar to a bot. It's essentially like a support function which helps you answer a lot of your queries. For example, I'll just give you this input, right? I just keyed in that, hey, I'm a product manager and I wanted to understand how do you even write a prompt. It can be very meta and very cool. You can just ask ChatGPT, how do you even start, right? And it'll throw up like a list of steps that, hey, you can consider asking a lot of questions. How do you ask questions? That's the key part. You get better at using it the more you use it, right? I'll show you another set of examples. Before that, I just want to give you 2 quick tips. All right. The way you input or basically the prompt to your ChatGPT, that's super crucial. Don't try to just key in a very sort of shallow one statement, because then the output also will be very generic. I'd suggest give it context. Try to sort of key in as many parameters in your question. Think of you rather than just putting a sentence out there, you can add like 4-5 lines so that you are essentially trying to train and add a lot more context for it, right? When you ask for a prompt, you would want to sort of make it as detailed and with as many inputs as possible, right? There's this tweet that I found on online. I'm pretty sure a bunch of you, if you follow the product managers across Twitter, shares this, he is one, and I love his tweets on ChatGPT. Do check him out. I'll give you an example. What's a bad prompt and what's a good prompt, and then we will also test it out. A bad prompt is essentially just putting in a very simple single statement like, hey, what's the sentiment of I'm not able to connect with my cab driver, right? It's a very basic and you'll get a similar generic. And a good prompt will be something like, hey, a user wrote feedback for a ride sharing app and what's the sentiment for the feedback message? And then you key in the input. So this is a very detailed with context prompt. You should try to key in your input, which is as detailed as possible. This is a very simple example. I suggest doubling down and maybe adding like 6-7 lines on top of it, right? So that the answer, the final output that you get out of ChatGPT is also as nuanced and super helpful. And it's basically what you're gunning for, right? Now, coming back to ChatGPT, what I'll do is I'll just show you a bunch of examples. Now, I essentially was setting up a blog on the PM School website. We were just about to publish it when I realized that I had missed writing the meta description for that blog, right? A lot of you, I'm hoping that you understand what a meta description is. Whenever you publish a web page, you also key in the title and the description for it. But I was not sure, should I read the blog again? I had forgotten what the blog context was. So what I essentially did was I remember the title. I just asked ChatGPT that, hey, tell me a meta description for a blog on product discovery, because that's the blog that we had recently published on the PM School's blog website, right? And it gave me a simple sort of description. Now, you can use the output as is. For example, the response from ChatGPT was discovering the right product for your business, .. But I would suggest whenever you get an output, don't try to as is use it, because the source of the training data could be from a lot of websites out there. It's maybe open source data. You might not want to plagiarize the net because essentially you are adding a meta description from an SEO context. So here, what you would suggest, what I would suggest is just use it as a description, tweak it. You might tweak 40-50% of it. You might not use it as is. You will just use the template as is and just add more flavor or context basis the blog that you have written, right? So it's a template. This is where you do your due diligence and use this as like a base. So that's the key nuance. You can use the ChatGPT outputs, but using it as is might not be as useful. That's what I want everyone here to understand. Right? Another example for aspirants out there, right? So for example, I was applying for this company called Delivery Hero. It's in Europe. It's a food delivery company similar to a Zomato or Swiggy. And if you're applying for a job and you have to cook up a cover letter, right? And you want to make it contextual. It was, I think, late in the night. I did not have time and I was not sure, should I go with the website, really research on their values and understand what should be the ideal cover letter. Out of my sheer laziness, what I did was I just asked ChatGPT, hey, why would I be like a perfect job fit for Delivery Hero? And how would I sort of craft a cover letter of sorts, essentially keying in the values that matter to Delivery Hero, right? So it gave me like a template. Now, what you could do is you can use 1 or 2 points from here. Again, the nuance here is don't try to use as is. This gives you starting points. See, essentially think of it as like a helping hand that's giving you direction. You can use certain things from here. If you just keying in and as is, your cover letter might become generic. You can add your own context or flavor. For example, you got 4-5 points here that you can write something about customer thinking or obsession. You can talk about any entrepreneurial stint you had, something you worked on. It could be like a small app you developed. Or you can talk about certain sort of teamwork or collaboration activities from experience, right? So I'd say ChatGPT as more like a helping hand to help me whenever I'm stuck with a cold start problem. I'm not able to start writing my blog. I'm not able to start my cover letter. That's why I just sort of key in certain inputs and it gives me starter points. right? That's how I do it. Another use case I would say is, let's say, now, I essentially wanted to think of a new idea of for a feature. For ideation and discovery, it's a super useful tool, right? Think of me coming up with new ideas for gamification in a food delivery app. Now, gamification is a massive umbrella. I can either spend like 4 or 5 hours on the internet, going on Google, typing like 6 or 7 different queries and trying to figure, okay, what is gamification? How do you start? And different sort of forms of research, which might take hours, which might take days, right? But if I want very sort of narrowed guidance of if, let's say I just need starting points of certain keywords, I'll use ChatGPT. For example, here I just asked this question, why is gamification needed in food delivery app? It gave me a journal response. This did not help me. I thought this response was not helpful. That's what I thought maybe now I should change my question. This is where I said maybe tweaking it in a certain way. I'll say that, hey, there's a competitor here in India, Zomato, in the same space. I'll say, okay, how does gamification help in Zomato? This is where it gave me certain ideas. Now, I liked 1 or 2 ideas. I might ask follow up on top of it. I'll say, okay, this list on food delivery app, right? These are not good prompts. These are bad prompts, but it's still giving me certain answers. And I was playing with it to see how the conversation changes, right? Now, I have another sort of idea. While I was reading the responses from ChatGPT, I just thought of, okay, maybe there should be social feeds that help me order more. I would want to know what my friends are ordering, right? Then I just keyed in the same input that came to my mind, right? And I got a series of responses, right? You being able to sort of build the social feed in a certain way. It should have group ordering. It should have basically a bunch of ideas that the training model threw in front of me. While I was thinking of that, I thought, okay, how do I sort of track my food journey on delivery app? Let me ask that question. So see, the series of responses are useful to a certain degree. You might pick 1 or 2 things from the output, or you might think about not using it if you feel it's not relevant for you, right? I'll give one more example. So today, let's say I wanted to understand if there is easily available information around Zomato or let's say Swiggy. I would key in the similar input even on Google. I tried it on ChatGPT. I saw there's a response. It was not relevant or useful for me, but still at least I tried, right? So it's a useful tool. It helps you for certain types of queries. It might not help you for certain types of queries. One more query I would want to sort of show you. So let's say I say something like, hey, can you help me with potential ideas to disrupt the gaming sector in India, right? Now, this is very plain vanilla. For example, I'm just brainstorming with my friend. I'm talking to my friend and we were thinking, hey, the gaming sector is really evolving. We don't know where to start. Let's see if there are a bunch of ideas. I might take a lot of time to research on it. I just put this question for ChatGPT and give me a bunch of really interesting ideas. So it can be like a starter point for you when you are in that jamming mode, right? One more example I'll give you is more around writing user stories or let's say even figuring out certain problems that you might have, right? So you're thinking of a problem, you can just put in the problem as is, or you can just key in, let's say, if you want to start writing a product requirement doc, right? Let's say you're thinking of, I want to start a referral feature. How do I even start, right? I just showed this example. For example, as a product manager, I wanted to write the user stories for a referral feature. I just put this input and I got like 10 user stories, right? Now, once I got a list of user stories, I might prioritize, I might think something is relevant from me and I'll, let's say, pick 2 or 3 items from here and then leave it. The second part, while I was thinking of the user stories, I thought, okay, what would be the success metrics by which I will define referral, right? And it gave me a very comprehensive answer, right? It gave me like 10 different sort of things that I should consider. Now, I might pick some of these, I might not pick some of these, but at least it's my starter sort of keywords that help me at least document or go further in my track of documenting. For example, I'm starting my PRD, I'm not able to figure, okay, should I think of X, Y? This is essentially like a tool that helps you go further in your sort of track, right? All right, so I've shown you a bunch of examples. Now, I don't want to sort of directly, randomly enter any input. I would want to sort of ask everyone here if you have any input that you would want me to check this. Guys, any questions on chat? I think, yeah, that's it. That's one there. So, guys, anything you would want me to ask ChatGPT, I'll just test it out in real time. and then we can see how it goes. Think of it as like conversation that's overflowing, right? Anything that you want me to ask ChatGPT? Okay. Manish had said, oh, all right, let's start it. Or I can just key in my own input. Any prompts, guys? Please don't hesitate. If there's anything you want me to ask ChatGPT, I'll do that right for you, right? And it can be useful, it can be not, but I just want to give you a real feel of how it works. Okay. Sunil has put in, as a product manager, how can I validate that I'm growing my product craft, right? I'll one sec. Good. I'll copy paste and I'll start. Okay, so I'm on default 3.5. That's fine. I'll obviously show you different responses depending on the model you choose. It takes some time. Don't worry, guys. All right. So this is the response I got. As a product manager, there's several ways to validate that you're growing your product craft. How do you seek feedback? Yeah. How do you review metrics, the analytics side of things, right? How you're reviewing what's working, what's not working, attending training and conference, being out there, collaborating within the community so that you know a lot of people, you're investing in your network, seeking out mentorship. A lot of us have mentors and we rely on their knowledge whenever we are struggling with a problem, right? Practicing self-reflection, understanding what's working, what's not working for you. A good set of ideas, right? Now, don't take this output as is. It might be helpful, might not be helpful. Maybe out of the 5 points, you will see that, hey, one is helpful and the other 4. So you might tweak your input. You can ask it in a very different way, and then essentially go try to do your own due diligence, right? We will ask one more question. Tejas had creating a viral post on LinkedIn. This is an interesting viral post on LinkedIn regarding product management with hashtags. Okay, let's see. Let's test this out. Okay, it took hardly like a second. Here's a potential viral post on LinkedIn regarding product management hashtags. Attention all product managers, are you tired of hearing the question? So what do you actually do? Nice. From market research to product development, we are the masters of balancing. So see, guys, it exactly gave you a response and an example. It's super useful. One more thing, I want to sort of give you an example so that you know the potential diverse set of use cases it can help you with. You can continue the conversation with the chat. Don't just think of input and output, right? For example, you can say, hey, can you give me another post? Okay, so it gave you one more example. So, and you can also ask like a follow-up on the previous the context here might not be as strong because obviously the world of ChatGPT and LLM models is evolving, but it does understand what you're asking. A lot of times your sort of output could be related to your previous sort of question. So feel free to sort of follow up the conversation and ask for as many questions, right? Okay. You can ask for acceptance criteria. How can I write user stories in Gherkin style? Let's try this. I'm not sure. Oh my God. See, super useful, especially if you don't know what Gherkin is, and essentially see, it's kind of for me, thinking of an analogy, it's kind of like Google for me, right? You can just ask it anything and think of you trying to now discover whether the output answers are relevant or not. Right? I would also want to sort of talk about certain other use cases that are super helpful. I tried this a week back. I cannot share that chat because it's confidential data. What I did was I fed in my feedback data. We had run a consumer research. We had shown a certain screen, a UI screen to 10 users, and they had given subjective feedback. And I had like 15 responses from end users. but I was not sure how do I sort of get patterns out of it, or I did not have rather time. You can say I was lazy to really sort of summarize everything. What I did was I just fed in the input to ChatGPT. You need not just have like 1-2 paragraphs. It was like a massive one pager when said, hey, this is the customer feedback. Can you summarize it for me? And it nicely summarized the analysis. It said that four users had talked about this problem, 3 users talked about this. So in that way also it's super useful. You can use it to you can feed data to it and use that to summarize your sort of analysis. We already tried 2 different sort of prompts on ideation. I showed you that prompt wherein I was thinking about referral features, thinking about gamification. So you can use it for finding roadmap potential. Choose your pick if it's relevant to you or not. You can also use it for research. Can you upload an image CSV? You can upload a CSV file. You cannot upload an image. You can obviously, if you're on the pro version, you can sort of key in certain files and you can give it a source. Hey, this is what I have. Can you sort of analyze it? You can define the product for you. For example, you can just give certain bullet points. Hey, this is what I'm thinking. These could be brain crude thoughts, and it will give a name for you. We were thinking of a certain name for a new product that we were coming up with, and we were not sure what the names would be. For example, let's say I'm coming up with a new category on Swiggy. That category is for e-commerce, right? I was not sure what do I call it. I just said that, hey, I'm coming up with a new e-commerce portal that will have products A, B, C. What should I call it? And it gave me like 5 different names, right? So it can help with product name, product brandings. It will also help you with drafting your announcements. For example, your PR releases, or you have just launched a feature and you want to shoot out a blog for it, but you have to add a lot of context since it might not have training data, or it might not know what your product is. So talk about what your product is and then ask it to formulate an announcement for you. And then the announcement could be, let's say, 4 paragraphs. And let's say you end up using 1 paragraph out of it. Choose your pick, whatever works for you. I'll then show certain examples that I found on Twitter that was super helpful. All right. Summarizing feedback, as I said, right, there were a lot of people who had talked about how ChatGPT has been useful. And this is something that I did yesterday, just pulling up what people are talking about. There was this guy who again had a series of responses. This was my source when I figured, oh, it can also help me summarize my feedbacks, right? So this was what helped me understand, okay, this is another use case that I can use it for. Similarly, product name suggestions. This is fairly simple. You can just ask it for 10 different sort of terms or names, semantics, play with the language, right? You can give it certain context. For example, if you're struggling with the problem, you're preparing for a meeting. Let's say you're preparing for a meeting wherein you're discussing the sunsetting of a feature, right? And if you know the reasons why you want to sunset the feature, feed in those reasons to ChatGPT saying that, hey, we want to deactivate feature X for my product Y. And the reasons for it are A, B, C, D, whatever those reasons are. Can you think of reasons against it or why I should not do it? And let it come up, let it show you a magic, right? And trust me, it works. I used it for one of my meetings last week. I think it gave me like 10 different bullet points and I used 2 bullet points out of it. It was not like as is, but at least I was able to start my chain of thought, right? So it's a good sort of cold start kicker for you. Again, as I said, it can help you write product requirement stories, success metrics, business strategy. I'd say don't ask for business strategy as like a plain vanilla question. Try to give it as much input about your product, about your business, key in like 4-5 paragraphs. The stronger your prompt, the more context you add your prompt with, the better the answer you're likely trying to get, right? Anchoring on continuous conversations. You saw how we asked 4-5 questions to ChatGPT, right? So try to sort of follow up. For example, here this person has asked that, hey, as a product manager of LinkedIn, can you give me some innovative feature ideas? And ChatGPT gave him, let's say, 8 different feature ideas. Now the person wants to go deeper into the second feature idea. That's why the follow-up question was, hey, I really like the second idea. Can you transform it into a user story for the development team? See, it's doing the work for you, right? Imagine you doing the same. It'll take some time. So it reduces your time. It's a massively helpful productivity tool in my lens. Then the follow-up is, okay, this feature is more like an epic. This is a massive feature. This is not like a small feature. Can you, instead of user story, think of breaking the feature down into multiple sort of components, right? That's where it gave like a full elaboration. Okay, these are 10. Now, when you get this, you might choose like 4-5 things, think of what's relevant, what's not, and you can sort of filter the responses accordingly. All right. So guys, I essentially had this much. This was more like a rundown on what ChatGPT is. For the next 15-20 minutes, I want to open it up to the forum and just understand if you have any questions. We want to take questions not just for maximizing ChatGPT, the use case for product managers, but anything under the umbrella of product management. We would love to take your questions here. All right. I see one question. Chat. Okay. Gaurav Saha has asked how to create a structured conversation with ChatGPT on product management. Can you illustrate with examples to start a food new film? Can you begin, give advanced prompts to? Got it. So Gaurav Saha, see, essentially, if you just ask how do you start a new food delivery business, it will give you certain ideas. But you should also add inputs like, okay, I want to start a new food delivery business in India, which serves a certain TG, right? For example, I want it to cater in a certain sort of geography, or let's say I want to cater it to people who are corporates or hardworking or white collar professionals. So give it more flavor. See, essentially, when you're thinking of ideas, right? If you key in inputs, the output would be more relevant if you're trying to think of narrowing down the problem statement. If you give it a very generic problem statement, hey, can you sort of help me start a new food delivery business? It'll give you like a very general answer, like whatever it could get its hands on. Advanced prompts would be trying to think about tangential secondary questions around your input. So whenever you have your input, think of what answers would be ideal for you. You would have an imaginary answer in your mind, right? What would be the output that you feel would be relevant? For example, if you're asking a question for a business idea or let's say a product strategy, you would think, okay, I would need to understand who are my users, where do I launch it, how do I launch it, what is my GTM? So add those things, right? Hey, this is my problem statement. I would need X, I would need Y, I need Z, and that's how the answer will also be a lot more flavored. Okay. Ayush has asked, the responses are plagiarized. I mean, if two people ask same question, will it give serious responses? See, it's a AI model. Sometimes it could give the same response, sometimes not. It's also a factor of how do you ask the question. If it's the same question, it's also about the model also evolving, right? See, as you key in more and more answers, for example, I've been playing with ChatGPT, the same sort of account, my user ID account, for the last, let's say, 4-5 months. So it has already gained a lot of context from the type of questions I've asked. So it kind of trains itself. That's why, and you'll see for every response, there's like a thumbs up and thumbs down as well. As you interact more with it, it becomes more personalized and contextual to your type of questions and how you are asking them. So the responses, obviously, it could be plagiarized. It depends on how long, basically, how deeper you are in your use cases and how long you've been using it for. I'd say try to play with it in a very diverse set of sort of manner. What I mean by that is when you're asking a question, try to ask the same question by rephrasing the question in different ways and trying to add a lot more context. These would be my 2 tips. I hope Ayush that clarifies it. Tejas had asked any particular page person to follow for relevant prompts on product manager. I'd say Lenny Rachetsky. Lenny Rachetsky had written a Twitter thread on different types of prompts for ChatGPT and shares Doshi as well. Just go to shares Doshi's profile and there's like, I think there are 1 or 2 threads around a lot of PMs talking about how they've been leveraging ChatGPT. Other personalized responses from ChatGPT specific to accounts. It takes time. It won't be like in a day or two, Prashant. It's more a factor of how long you've been using it. And it's also in the session, for example, if you want to sort of change context, what I would say is start a new chat. What I mean by that is, for example, you've been talking to the bot with a certain lens. I would say Yeah, this is the one. For example, I've been talking to a bot about food tech or food delivery businesses on a certain chat. If you want to sort of start afresh, start a new chat. And this is where you came, right? You can also choose a different model. There are three, there's default ChatGPT 3.54. 4 is a lot more helpful, but it's very slow in terms of the response. So depending on what your use case is, for copies and journal, I tend to use 3.5. You will only get the default one on the free version. This is only the paid version where you will get access to the other two. Okay. All right. I guess I've answered all your queries. Guys, if there is anything pending, feel free to ask. If you are not sure what your question is, you can DM myself or Kushal and we will raise your question and try to discuss that. Please do not hesitate. Okay, so Sunil has asked, for a PM working in B2B, it becomes initiative approach instead of product-led approach. And it is usually PM getting what to build, exposure to discovery less. How can one? Sunil, what I would suggest is, see, even though you work in a B2B space, you obviously, I understand from your question that you are heavily influenced by your sales team. It's the business team coming to you with features that, hey, this client needs feature X and feature Y, and you just go ahead and build it. I'd suggest maybe when you join a company early stage and you'll be in that pressure and you might want to sort of support your big clients, which are bringing in your main sort of mullah, the ARR, right? But having said that, form your opinion, form your product strategy over like a quarter or two, and then start pitching it to internal stakeholders. See, it's a convincing skill that you have to develop as a product manager, wherein you work very well with your business teams or your sales counterparts. You have to tell them why you are saying no to certain clients or certain type of features. You have to create a case that, hey, we should be building X over Y because we can potentially get this much business in the future, right? How do you create that case? Now that will come from your exposure to the market. I would suggest start attending a lot of sales calls. When I say sales calls, clients who have not been converted as well, right? Also attend existing client calls so that you understand their problems. And then you start collecting data and create your own sort of storytelling narrative and create a doc. Basis that research, you can then pitch a certain sort of strategy to your business team. Hey, we should be going in a certain direction. So you would not be following or be kind of like a puppet to a certain sort of a department, right? I understand this is a problem for B2B product managers, but you will come out of it as you spend more time in the system, as you get more exposure to the market and the consumer psyche. I hope that answered it, Sunil. Feel free to ask a follow-up. Yeah. Avishi has asked, is it worth moving to paid version? Avishi, I would suggest play with the free version for like a couple of weeks. And once you are comfortable and you see how helpful it is, only then move to a paid version. See, don't think of you for following the trend as in, hey, I need a paid version straight off the bat. Get a taste of how it's helping you. Try to use it for different types of questions. And once you are sure that, hey, it's helping you for certain use cases, only then you can upgrade it. I'd suggest get more experience and then trying the paid one. Tisha, is it safe to share company data on ChatGPT? You should not. For sure, see, it's confidential data. Do not see, you would never be sharing metrics. A lot of times ChatGPT is helping you start thinking, right? So you can add context only to a certain degree that it helps you, but do not share hard numbers. Do not share confidential data. I would obviously recommend highly against it. You would not want to sort of put that information out there that's being trained on top of the model, and it's open source. A lot of people are using it on the free tier, right? When will the recording be shared? I think within a day or two, the team will put the recording out. Just keep an eye out on our LinkedIn channel. The recording will be out. You need not worry. Shika had asked, how is the role of a PM in the startup differing from peer or PM in MNCs? I'd say there are three things. One is in a startup, the PM is more jack of all trades kind of person. You might not have design resources. You might not have, let's say, project managers. You are essentially one person manning the fort, managing the project. You are essentially someone who's mocking up the wireframes, right? So there's like a resource crunch. So you also sometimes might not have access to analysts, and you'll have to learn querying, SQL, because you'll be handicapped and would not want to depend on tech or analytics to pull out the data for you to get certain insights. So in startups, essentially, when you join in your early part of your career, you tend to get exposure to a lot of different skills. In MNCs, it's a lot more comfortable because you'll have different stakeholders who will function and fuel your growth. The second thing is the speed. Obviously, startups are super fast in executing. There's obviously a con there. If you are super fast to the market, the GTM is quicker. You tend to take a lot of loose-handed decisions wherein you're not finicky about copies. You're not finicky about the final design and the experience. So you take a lot of short-change decisions. It works if obviously the strategy is right and the PMs and the business and the team really understand the market and the users. You'll be able to take the right decisions. In a bigger setup in MNCs, your GTMs will be quite slower because the risk is higher, right? You already have an established base. Most likely, if you're an MNC, your revenue model is already set. So you're tweaking certain things in a very different lens. You're trying to make sure where do you sort of optimize certain metrics in your funnel, and your time to market is higher. The third thing is you would want to sort of do a lot more storytelling in MNCs. In startups, generally, in a smaller setup, you are reporting to, let's say, a co-founder. You just need to convince one or two guys to get things executed. In bigger setups, you'll take a lot of time to convince a lot of people to align. Stakeholder alignment sometimes gets difficult, but you learn the art as you grow old in the system. You master the art of product storytelling with time, right? I hope that helped. Yeah, Shika. Manish had just answered that the video will be available. Any PM roles in FMCG? For sure, right? See, the product could be different. I see traditional product manager roles in the FMCG wherein the product is the tangible product, that is, let's say, the personal care products or even pure consumer products. That's a very different type of product management. At PM school, we teach digital product management, that is the art of building tech products, web applications, and mobile applications. A lot of FMCG companies today have a tech, the digital arm also, right? You will see a lot of these FMCG companies have like a website or let's say an app wherein they create their D2C, direct to consumer store, right? So you will see both types of product manager roles in FMCG, the traditional role wherein a lot of these product managers are on the ground working well with the marketing function and the on-ground ops team to make sure the product distribution is in sync, making sure that the targets are being met. And they'll also have the digital arm, as I said, which will be your digital tech product managers working on the website, making sure that the conversion or basically the traffic from top of the funnel, getting the relevant set of TG users onto your website to people to convert and pay and buy, purchase your FMCG products, right? So you'll have both types of PM roles in FMCG. Sunil had a question for a PM already working. Do we still need a product portfolio? See, product portfolio accentuates your profile. It amplifies your pitch. Don't think of product portfolio as an extra thing. Essentially, your portfolio is what you signal to potential employers, right? So when you send a resume is a set of keywords, right? If I'm looking at keywords, either your profile or the brand names are super powerful, and I learn from your body of experience that, hey, this is the relevant person that I need for the job. If not, you need to support your resume with certain signals. How do you support that? That's where a product portfolio comes in, right? For example, you have a case study that you worked on. There's like a very detailed solution you had researched, and you basically share your product thinking process. You share certain skills that I might not have been exposed to by just looking at keywords on the resume. That's how the product portfolio gives a whole lot of signals to, okay, who you are as a person, right? When I get your email with just a resume, it's just a set of keywords, either I get convinced by your profile or not. If I'm not convinced by it, and if there's like a supporting portfolio with certain case study solutions, and I find something interesting, that might add to your overall profile, and the chances of propensity of you getting selected is high. That's essentially it. So FII, we run a lot of product challenges. Every week on the PM School website, we will set up a case study problem, and 30, 40 people will attempt it. Please do try it out. It'll give you a sense of okay, well, how product problems are approached. It's fine if you've not been exposed to it. Look at old case studies and try to sort of attempt 1 or 2 challenges, and you'll get a sense of, okay, how product challenges are solved. Yes, we mentor PMs. We have PM School as an entity has multiple types of programs. We have the flagship program, for which we have an upcoming cohort on next weekend. May 13th is when we start the next cohort. I suggest, if you don't know of it, please apply, go to our website and apply for the next batch. As soon as you apply, someone from our team, the admissions council, will speak to you. As part of the cohort, we have like a full-blown hands-on mentorship module. You'll get your own mentor who will help you prepare for interviews. You'll get your teaching assistant to help debunk myths and help you understand product management and grasp product skills. We also have like a placement support team. So please apply for the PM flagship batch. The next batch starts on May 13th, as I said. Krishna asked, how can I transit into product manager role? Currently, I'm totally non-PM and non-tech background. Kushbu, you have to obviously start your profile building by solving challenges or doing a course, or let's say getting exposed to product life cycles, right? Say essentially, when you're applying for your first PM role, the competition is crazy. Your profile needs to stand out. You need to signal that you have started your learning process and you understand product managing the role, right? How do you signal that? By getting exposed to product management skills. How do you get exposure? If you have a good mentorship network, you can obviously reach out to your seniors, speak to a lot of product managers so that you get exposure to what the role is. Every product manager working in a different industry and a different type of product might expose you to new types of product management roles, from growth PM roles to, let's say, conventional conversion funnel or payment product roles, right? So speak to people. That's one. Read books, right? Crack the PM interview or the PM interview to understand the craft, and then getting exposure to product management via mentorship by doing a course like PM School that obviously accelerates your learning. If you're not able to sort of give a lot of time to doing like a full-blown cohort, parallelly with your job or your college, you can start reading these books and reaching out to people to understand the role better. As you get a sense of, okay, these are the 4-5 competencies, there are these 4-5 skills that are super relevant for you to crack your first product role, right? Your product sense, your thinking, how do you sort of understand what features to be built, how do you sort of take trade-off decisions, because these are the questions that you will get asked in a product interview as well. You will get questions like, hey, how do you design a referral product for a gaming app? Or how do you design X for Y? Yeah, these type of questions, right? The final answer is essentially, obviously, what's needed, but how do you approach these questions is what you'll get exposed to in a cohort like PM School, right? Khushbu, feel free to ask follow-up questions. I understand you might have a lot more queries, right? So Sumit has asked, how can one be a mentor at PM School? Sumit, just drop us an email on hello@pmschool.io. Kushal here, my co-founder, he's the one who leads the mentorship and the teaching part, and you have to convince him to be a mentor. I'll just put in the email as well. Yep, okay. Okay, so Teke had asked, working with e-commerce and earlier in IT, both in business development, also considering hiring market, what are the companies that should target to land in a PM role? See, try to find commonalities with respect to your first PM role. You are changing into a new profile, so you will obviously get friction trying to get shortlisted. So since you are already working in e-commerce, I'd suggest look at e-commerce companies only, because you have some domain expertise only, right? Getting exposure to a new industry and a new role, that will be super difficult. That's why what I would say is try to find companies who are similar to what you are doing. Like try to sort of think of as you said, IT, right? If you worked on certain problems, for which you can see competitors out there. I'd say apply to companies that are very parallel to what you're doing. That's the most easiest, because think of me as a hiring manager. I'm looking at your profile. I see that you are working in a problem space that I'm also working on. I would want to speak to you. And obviously, see, you have a BD background. Start reading a lot of books around product management, so you get a sense of what's design thinking, what's product sense, how do you work with analytics, basic soft skills around working with technology, writing product requirement documents, right? There are a lot of these soft skills that you can learn in a small amount of time. You do not need to like waste like months. You can just pick up on these skills by being hands-on, getting exposure to knowledge out there, which is already available on Google, right? Just search and figure out what these core product skills are and start building on top of it. Okay, I had. All right. Manish, you there? Hey, Manish. Can you make Kushal the host? Oh, so Tejas had asked, please take a session of building up. Tejas, we do this session once in a month. I'm not sure. Just keep an eye out on our LinkedIn page. I think we have done 3 or 4 portfolio building sessions already. If I'm not wrong, we have already also put out certain videos on YouTube. Priyal, you can ping me on LinkedIn and I'll send you the link. Please do not worry. And Priyal, if you have the link handy, if you can just put it on chat. All right. All right, guys. I guess we are almost close to 8:30. Any last questions around product management, or let's say using ChatGPT? Feel free to like ask us, or you can send us an email. I'm assuming if you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, please send me a request and feel free to ask a lot more queries. Yeah, don't hesitate, please. I guess that's it. All the best, guys. Have a good rest of the week. Thank you for attending this session. I had a lot of fun. I hope a lot of you learned something out of it. Goodbye.